Don Lee has over 20 years of experience in education policy, products, and services. He's currently a vice president for K-12, a leading provider of educational products and services in the U.S. Don is also board chairman of Hold Fast America, whose mission is to embrace the principle that an individual has the right and responsibility to stand for what is right, to resist that which is evil, and with an engaged community of volunteers acting in partnership with government, business, and faith community, drastically reduce the frequency of attacks and mitigate the resulting injuries and death on ourselves and others. Don is a former 4-term member of the Colorado House of Representatives. He was the vice chairman of the House Education Committee, and he has been a regular speaker on school violence issues because he represented the area that included Columbine during that massacre.
Actually, on the way in tonight, Rachel, my wife, who's here on the front row, the third seat here, we drove by Columbine High School, and every time I drive by Columbine High School, I just kind of get that shiver, that feel from that day on April 20th, 1999. And 2 years ago, when the Parkland massacre occurred, I got that same feeling because of the eerie similarities between the two. And I sat there in my hotel room because I travel quite a bit, and I forget where I was. I think it may have been Nashville, North Carolina. But I told myself, why is it after 19 years, the same thing happens? Why is that? It shouldn't be that way. What have we learned? What have we enacted? What have we done? Look how far we've come in technology and in our culture and so on and so forth. Look what we've done with fire safety. When's the last time a child died in a school fire? Can anybody remember ever? In the last 20 years? No. What about accessibility? We passed the Accessibility Act, and we make sure that there's accessibility for people that are special needs and so on and so forth in the schools and in our society. Make sure that the toilets are the right height, the drinking fountains are the right height. You have ramps and accessibility for different things. How much money do you think we spent on that over the last 30 years, I think, since that was implemented? Billions and billions of dollars, mostly local money. You think about our food. The food is under heavy regulation to make sure that the food that our children eat in the school is nutritious and not going to harm them, and that they're not going to be tampered with, and so on and so forth. We put a lot of effort in a lot of things about our schools. But when it comes to school safety, I think where we lack on the building security, the physical security of schools. And I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of things. A lot of it is complacency. I remember after Columbine, I got a group of citizens together as a task force. We had about 70 members that came together, and we talked about what can we do different? What is it that happened? What can we do different? And in fact, I think, Tina, you might have been part of that, if I remember right. And everybody's like, the last thing we want is the schools to look like prisons or feel like prisons. We don't want, the schools to feel unwelcomely, and so on and so forth. And, Jeff made a good point. What about when you go to Coors Field? Do you feel like that's a prison because they search your bag and they make you go through a magnetometer? Or when you go to the courthouse, and whether it's the Taj Mahal or the federal building downtown, or when you go to the airport, do you feel like you're walking into the prison because they have all these security people, dogs walking around sniffing, at your bags and things? Doesn't it offend you? No, it doesn't. We accept that for a sense of protection, and I think that we need to start thinking more about that in our school buildings. We have the technology today that there are passive ways of securing buildings where the students don't even realize it's there. So it's a matter of doing it. Another thing is, let's see what time we have here. I got about 5 more minutes, yeah. So I can slow down. We have a department for fire, for a division of fire safety with the Department of Public Safety here in Colorado. It's a whole department. That's all they do is make sure that buildings are secure, specifically schools as well. And there's all these standards, state standards of what these school buildings have to meet. We don't have any standardization on when it comes to the safety of the school buildings that's standardized that we do with fire safety. And all they have right now with the Department of Public Safety is you go to their website, and they have a clearinghouse of links. So your school district employees or administrators can go there and click on a link, and it'll take them somewhere and tell them things about certain types of security. So it's basically a resource center. I think we need to do better than that. And I'm not a big government guy, but I think some things do need to be standardized. And I do think that some things have to be mandated to be met, similar to fire safety in our school buildings. I think there should be some mandated standard safety criteria for our public schools. And it could be, you can talk about the cost later on, or we can talk about that later on through Q&A. But it could be something through, just after Parkland, nationwide, $900 million have gone into student safety. And almost half of that was just in Florida, $400 million. A lot of that is through, went to counseling. And I'm all about, making sure that we're taking care of the issues, that the mental health issues that are some of the cause of these things. But it's a lot of money going into that, and I think the school buildings themselves are being ignored. So I think that the state ought to maybe start a working group, come up with some standardization with experts such as my friend Denny over here, and put together some standardization for what we should expect of our school buildings. When they do upgrades, when they build new ones, we can grandfather this stuff in. We can have matching grants. We can have all kinds of ways of making it happen. But I think that's one of the things that we need to really start focusing on from a policy perspective.